Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 with Dr. Jeremy Villani. We're going to shoot the breeze about whatever he wants to talk about, and I'll try and reel him in and control his passion and occasional outbreaks of wonderment. Jeremy, welcome back.
Glad to be back.
So, what's happening? Is your sanity holding out in these times, and how do you maintain your faith in chiropractic when the world is going crazy?
Oh, well, I mean, for me, chiropractic's never really been a faith or belief. It's always a truism. It is what it is. And I remember back when we met back in '95 at Palmer. I think it was the chiropractic fraternity that's at the campus. I can't remember the actual fraternity, but they had like a big thing one night, and all the greats were there, and we were in a circle outside, everyone having a few drinks and whatnot. And I'm pretty sure it was Guy Reichman, got in the middle, and he was saying, I love people who don't believe in chiropractic, because it's not a belief system. I mean, you can jump off a building and say you don't believe in gravity, but you're still going to hit the concrete. So chiropractic, brain body connection, that's a thing. Like, it's not a belief, it's not a faith, and I've always find solace in the practice, because that is where, I enjoy what I do. I love what I do. I love making impact in people's lives. So, anytime I get my hands on a patient, that's always where I want to be. So in these troubled times, the more people I can adjust, the more people I can help their lives improve and remove subluxation, the happier I am. So yeah, that's always a thing. I find more distress, I'm more distressed sitting home watching Netflix or something. That's that's probably more distressing than anything else,
And with the latest discussions on immunity and X-ray, what else is on your mind with the scope of chiropractic? And I mean, we've always been the underdogs, and at the moment, the underdogs are being challenged more than ever, because the truth seems to be hidden in all this current world affairs, where you cannot even trust evidence-based medicine anymore, because there's articles coming out saying that everyone's just out there to build their own nest through so-called research. But what are the things that maintain constancy for you in, let's say, taking X-rays or the financial aspects of chiropractic? What's on your mind regarding all this?
Well, X-rays, I always find comfort in X-rays, just because, excuse the pun or dad joke, but they are black and white. So, what you see is what you get. And, X-rays are an integral part of being a chiropractor, and an integral part of chiropractic, just, for the assessment, our case histories, our workup on our people that come through our doors, as well as follow-up things too. But X-rays in itself, before we even delve into, wide X-ray or reasons X-ray, which, is plenty of information out there on that. But is the reasons I think people don't X-ray these days tends to be from a financial standpoint. And that comes back into probably a poverty mentality that for a lot of people starts in chiropractic school, I believe, probably even before chiropractic school, maybe before even getting to chiropractic school. Because remember, we were all poor students at one time too. And, you're lucky. I mean, I was very grateful for Taco Bell and things like that when I was through school, because I can feed myself for a few dollars a day, but I always valued what I did. And even in clinic, I remember telling some of the patients I would see in the outpatient clinic at Parker, they said, "Oh, what's the difference between, now when you graduate in a month?" And and jokingly, but I wasn't joking, I always say about $30. It'd be about $30 difference, when I graduate. Right now you're getting it for a discount. But there are a lot of students who, they don't value what they do, just as being a chiropractor is what they don't value their adjustments, and they definitely don't value the X-rays, because they see that as a huge expense. I don't know what the clinics charge in a lot of places, but I know like most places, it's still well below market value. Like I believe the New Zealand Chiropractic College, for initial examination and X-ray, I think the whole workup's about $150, and that's with a full spine X-ray, which is like incredibly cheap. Yeah, I mean, Auckland Radiology, I believe, charges about $220 just for X-rays. Forget about examination, all that other stuff. So you're still getting half off. And even with that, there's still many students, but even flows out into the practice. It goes beyond that they don't think it's an expense the patient should wear, which I find funny because it's not an expense. It's a benefit, it's information, it's diagnostic. I mean, you're going to get information off those. I mean, all my years of practice, and I'm sure you would agree, I've always learned something from taking an X-ray. I've never not learned something from taking a film. So I think the information is always key. You talk about research and things like that. Information is always key. Now, of course, research, just things can be manipulated and whatnot, but like, so at least for an X-ray, it's black and white. It is what it is. What's there is there. And it's up to you as the chiropractor to, use that information to not only help assess the patient, benefit the patient, remove some fixation, but also educate the patient too.
But why the extreme backlash against it, do you think? What do you think's behind that?
It's a good question. I mean, excellent question. I mean, I think unfortunately we do get chiropractors that seem to hate chiropractic. Like, I'm sure there's like that in every profession. I think I think people not taking X-rays, does come down to a financial worth, poverty mentality thing, but also they see it as extra work. They might have to write an X-ray report. They're also afraid of confrontation. Also afraid of, well, what if what if the patient doesn't like what I'm doing? Like, it's the old letting the inmates run the asylum. Like, and I've come across a lot of chiropractors recently. Over the years, that a lot of chiropractors these days don't seem to like confrontation. It wasn't that long ago chiropractors were being jailed for being chiropractors. And we have a backbone. You have to have a spine. I mean, you have to be resilient, to be a chiropractor. Where now we have a large chunk of the profession doesn't like confrontation, and it's it leads into the thing. If we're not explaining to the public, to the patients walk through our door, what chiropractic is, well, who are we leaving that up to? Is it the GP? Do we want the GP to explain what chiropractic is? The physio? What they say on YouTube? I mean, the amount of people come to the office with, do you see the video with the guy wrapping a towel around their neck? And, I mean, you be nice, polite, and laugh about those things, but it's like, I mean, this is how most of these people are getting their information on chiropractic, and then when they walk into a chiropractor's office that doesn't want to educate, doesn't want to.
I think you're right in a sense, because colleagues ask me, what if vaccination becomes compulsory for chiropractors? And I think if you want to get vaccinated, that's a good thing for you. However, if they came after me to get vaccinated mandatorily by coercion, I would go to jail. I don't give a shit. I don't want to do anything that a government imposes on me that I cannot see. Proper informed consent, the value driven by research, I will do it. Such as people compare wearing seatbelts. There's no question that wearing seatbelts I like it and I agree with it and I can see the research. But if you are in practice, you've got to stand up for your convictions. And like you said, it's not a belief system. But conversely, if you believe something so strongly in the absence of evidence, then you've got to stick by it. And so it's like chiropractors, they don't, nobody likes confrontation. So you're right. But if we don't, like they say, if you don't stand for anything, you fall for everything. Yeah. So.
Hey, I'm a New Yorker. We thrive on confrontation.
Yeah, and it's a shame how New York is going now. I mean, New York is even. It's a terribly disappointing what's happening over there.
I had a wise man once tell me that the philosophy of today is the science of tomorrow, and you have to even though, and that's where the belief, like there's many things us chiropractors we see in our office every day. When people, I always hate the term chiropractic miracles because to me they're way more regular than a miracle, but like we see all these amazing things occur in practice day in, day out. And it could still be many years before research catches up to that. But that's all science. That's not just chiropractic. Like, most things have to be theorized, hypothesized. You look at theoretical physics, astrophysics. I mean, there's concepts of how the universe works and things like that, but it's still theories. We don't know for sure that this is how it works. We don't know. I was actually watching an interesting documentary on black holes the other day, and now they actually, because I always say, everything gets sucked into it, nothing ever comes out. Well, now they reckon they are finding stuff that comes back out. There is information on the outer layers of the black hole. So things change all the time with those things, but the brain body connection is never going to change. I mean, you have a brain, a spinal cord, you have the connection to the body, like that brain body connection, that's a definite, but we may be still learning the intricacies of how it works, how the benefits and all these other things. And science, I think eventually, of course, eventually will catch up, but the question is not if not, but just when. The question is when we'll catch up, and that's like most things.
So what do you think is in education settings, what do you think the greatest perhaps shortfall in chiropractic education at the moment is? Is it philosophy? Is it practice? Is it technique?
I think probably, I'm probably maybe not the one to talk this, maybe where we need to get Dr. Phil McMaster in here. I mean, with all his years of being involved.
Yeah, get him in.
Chiropractic college, yeah. Like, because I think he could get more into details about like the CCE, like the accreditation stuff, all the things that the chiropractic schools, have to fall in line with to be accredited. Like, so you'll go up the chain as far as like what the chiropractic colleges have to actually do to be accredited is quite interesting too, because yet they do have to not sell their souls, but have to fall in line a little bit in some areas. There are areas of compromise. Some schools are very willingly happy to do it and even want maybe more of that. But I think like anything, it's not just chiropractic. I think most fields, any tertiary education, whether you're an engineer, chiropractor, doctor, dentist, lawyer, what you tend to get in academia, even Parker, we had some great teachers, but we also had some teachers who didn't deserve to really be there. If you ask me, like they weren't successful in practice, they couldn't hold a practice, run a practice, so you do get mediocrity, and then mediocrity breeds mediocrity. And that's everywhere. That's every profession. I think every university. There was a time. It'd be great if you had, great chiropractors coming back and giving back to the colleges and spending time, mentoring them or teaching a class. And I know there are some that do, and there's probably many that don't. But
sadly, a lot of the campuses don't invite the technique gurus on anymore, do they?
No. Well, like I said, they have their own mediocrity breeds mediocrity. They just rather you get people graduate, in December, and then they're lecturing or in January, which is crazy. Like
I just found that when I was at Palmer, I just used to hang out for the technique gurus. We had a few on staff that were absolute gurus in a nice way. I don't mean we kiss their feet. But I think keeping away people of great success and who have looked into chiropractic in scientific ways, like my mentor, Dr. Roy Sweat. But I think we need to get more. But you do have an interest in the financial aspects, and so certainly you must think there's some gaps in financial management but there's only so much space, isn't there?
I think it still comes down to, and once again, it comes back to this poverty mentality again of, I was looking up the other day, just doing a little bit of curiosity, a little bit of research for even our chat today. But I was looking at what chiropractors earn, like through New Zealand, Australia, America, what median incomes are. And I was looking at many different websites, and you always got to take these things with a grain of salt. But you try to find some similarities and some overlaps. And the one thing was, the median salary that sort of came across quite loudly through all the multiple different websites I looked at and data things I looked at was, median income for chiropractors was about 70K across the board in most of those. But the thing I found, and we'll come back to that in a second, but the thing I also found more concerning, or to me, and this is the thing I do want to delve into more, was the chiropractors who are from 0 to 5 years, so the first year grads, the early grads, young chiros, their income have gone down in the last 5 to 10 years, on average 15%, particularly Australia and America. Where senior chiropractors, people who've been practiced 20 plus years, their incomes are going 15 to 20% up, which, is quite interesting. So, that comes back to, are we eating our young as chiropractors? Are we not protecting or helping the young ones get on their feet? Or are the young ones that come out, the young college, maybe they don't want to work full time. Maybe they only want to work 12-hour weeks, things like that. I mean, there is a perception change with these things. I do know that exists. Wasn't how I came out of school, wasn't my work ethic. I mean, I always tell any young chiropractor, the best ability you can have is availability. Be available. Be happy to see people. Make yourself available. Don't pigeonhole yourself in the 10-hour work week. Tuesday to Thursday, and then wonder why you don't have anyone in your clinic. And I've met people, and I've met people like that, and they're practice coaches. Have given this advice. Have the practice of your dreams from day one. Yeah, that's great on paper and whatnot, but the reality is you have to be available. You just have to put the work in. When you're in practice 10, 15, 20 years, if you want to work 2-3 days a week, yep, you'll probably work 2-3 days a week and see a large volume, but that's after time. You're not going to get that first out. So I just found that very interesting that was a disconnect, because some of the salaries I saw for first year early grads was as low as $22,000 to about 50,000, 50, 60. And like, if you're going to study 5 years in Australia, New Zealand, or you do the 8 years in America, post-grad, undergrad, and you're coming out making 50K. I mean, I know there's teachers in America that do 4 years of teaching and that make 30K. Like, what are you attracting? That to me comes back to one of our basic principles of chiropractic law of attraction is, if this is what you're offering people, well, what sort of people are you going to attract? We need, I think, more resilient, more like, I did come across one, because I did also go into individual states, and there was one in Texas that had this chiropractic income spread between $122,000 and $331,000, and I was like, wow, that's cool. Like, I would lead with that. Like, that's something, if I was at Parker or any of these chiropractic schools in Texas, if you could say, as a graduate, our graduates routinely make this spread, like, I think you'd be interested to see what sort of people you attract. If people know, wow, I can make, 120K a couple years out of practice, or after, 10, 15 years practice, I'm beyond $300,000 a year. Once again, you're going to attract a different sort of rationale. And I do see, and I know we mentioned this before, but I mean, I do see a lot of chiropractors that, they work out of a small office, one room in a house, no CA. They limit themselves, or not. They limit themselves, not even realizing they're limiting themselves, but they keep themselves to like a 40, 50 patient visit average a week. And they don't understand that they could even do much more than that. Like, that's not even in their consciousness, which I find sad, because it's, you can be as busy, and I'm not saying, everyone else has a massive volume practice. If that's what you want, great. But know that those possibilities are there. I think some chiropractors don't even realize that that's a possibility. Some people choose to have a smaller volume practice for lifestyle because they're raising children or whatever. That's great. As long as you're doing what you want to do, but don't limit yourself. Don't think, oh, I'm a chiropractor. Most chiropractors never see more than 40, 50 people a week. Like, that's crazy. Like, there's people, you can have whatever potential you want. Don't limit yourself, and that's one of my messages to everyone. Like, have the lifestyle you want. I mean, I've always seen as being a chiropractor is, winning a lottery. Like, it's given me the lifestyle I wanted. I've achieved my goals. I've continued to achieve my goals. And I'm always grateful and thankful for having, for being a chiropractor. Every morning I wake up as a chiropractor is a great day. And I just wish other chiropractors felt like that too. Like, and it saddens me when they don't.
And I think, knowing you, Jeremy, a very competent and successful manual adjuster. I'll change the course now. How come you adapted so well to embracing like the Atlas orthogonal instrument adjusting as something that you saw the value of? Can you tell us a little bit about how manual adjusters can see the value of also learning a specific upper cervical technique and how it assisted your patients?
Yeah. Well, I've always felt, I think every chiropractor needs to be always checking C1 with whatever way they are comfortable with doing, whatever analysis, but C1 always needs to be something that's routinely checked. And that's a debate whether or not chiropractors even do that. But I'll give you an answer you're probably not going to expect, where in my world, I wish more chiropractors were like, I almost wish we were forced to do manual adjusting for, say, the first 5 years of practice. Like, not not even allowed an instrument until after 5 years, because does take time. It is quite a hard skill to master. I was maybe, like I said, I'm probably a slow learner, but it took me, I reckon, 5 years of being on practice where I was comfortable with it, and I reckon 10 years before I mastered it. And then, after 10 years, yes, then I was open to things like, oh, what are, other techniques, not saying, I enjoyed the manual techniques, but then Atlas orthogonal, I've always had an interest in upper cervical, but when you and I started talking about Atlas orthogonal, it just fit in well into my paradigm at the moment as far as, here, great, another tool, something that's, because, getting it on a TVP is quite difficult, and getting a good contact is tricky. But in the Atlas, and this is where, maybe we'll upset the apple cart here, but and get people upset, but there's a lot of vertebrae in the spine. You have a good margin of error, if you know what I mean, and anyone who's practicing knows what I mean. But the C1 is something you really got to be spot on with. Like, you cannot be, muck around with that. And I personally found Atlas orthogonal. I mean, and I said, for me, that's what works. I still think, Blair's great, and the other observer technique's great.
Yeah.
But for me, Atlas orthogonal was a nice way to deliver the same force, have something that's consistent, repetitive. You can repeat all the time. You can get the same results. And with something as important as C1, yeah, it worked in really, really well. Because I'll still do a manual C1 adjustment quite often. But there are plenty of people that I do AO with as well too. And that's just
and you can also gain so much from a little bit of the X-ray analysis that the AO affords.
Yeah, well, like we had, I know you've had Dr. Jeff Hanna talk, and I'm always in awe of him. He's a great chiropractor. I'm so grateful he's on our side. I said all the time, and I mean it. But Jeff has a great video about chiropractic asymmetries on X-ray, which I think every chiropractor should have to watch. Like, because if you don't think X-ray is necessary, or you think your palpation is the best since whoever, like, you need to watch that video. Because, like, if after you watch that video you don't think there's any reason to X-ray,
we'll post a link to that.
Yeah.
Jeff has dedicated hundreds of hours to educating people, and I'll find the link and post it in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's as simple as, is it a large TVP or is it a lateral atlas? Like, there's a massive difference to that. And a large TVP doesn't mean it's subluxated. It palpates subluxated, palpates out of place, but then if you adjust it, you're adjusting into subluxation. You're causing harm. It's pretty straightforward. Like, most of these things are no-brainers. But yes, in our profession, we still want to argue over these sorts of things, and it's unfortunate. Like I've told you before, I think I told you last time, I wish that, the only thing we have to argue in our profession is technique. Like, I look forward to those days where we can all sit in a room and argue about technique, or which is better, blah, 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 like, because every technique has the merit, has valid, it's what you're comfortable with, it's what you get results with, and it's what you can produce, have results. You can get repeated results. That's the main thing with anything. You want to be able to know what you're doing.
So, Jeremy, when you've been in the college, do students ask you about the best type of practice for the new graduate, whether they should associate, whether they should check? Do they ask you questions like that?
I think, like at the New Zealand College, as well as even talking to Macquarie students and RMIT, CQU, like most young students I've talked to, most of them really, the bulk, great majority do not go out and have their own practices now. Like, it's not, that's changed a lot from when we came out. Like, so most of them do want to go into associateships. But then there's a lot of chiropractors like us who have been 20 plus years, 25 years in practice, who sometimes we don't know how to deal with associates, because, like, in our mind we go, why, what's wrong with you? Why you want to associate and not have your own practice? And there are financial things, but I think for a lot of young chiros, and I went through this too, like, you have to appreciate there's nothing being paid what you're worth. But I mean this in all due respect, but your first year out as a chiropractor, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. You're going to say a lot of wrong things. You're not going to retain patients. Your patient visit averages will be down. Your reported findings will be off. Your chiropractic talk will be, it just takes time to get the communication side down, which is I try to tell anyone who watches this and who's studying chiropractic, and maybe in your first year of school and you're frustrated because you're not adjusting yet, don't worry about that. Get out there and talk chiropractic. You know, one of the best chiropractic techniques you can have is your mouth, talk, communicate.
Having said that, first 3 years of practice for me, I had so many incredible cases with resolve, with success, and it was almost like I was driven by, you know, the skin of my enthusiasm. And like you said, you don't know what you're doing on a lot of fronts, but
yeah,
it doesn't mean you cannot get some completely memorable events and cases. And
if you're coming out with passion, zeal, confidence, people feed on that. People respond to that.
Yeah,
I mean,
and that's it. It won't last forever, but you know, and you go through phases.
Eventually, your skill level will catch up to your confidence, and then when you're both on the same par, amazing things happen. You know, but you know, you don't want to lack confidence. You don't want to, like, no one wants to see a doctor of any sort that doesn't have confidence, that has sweaty hands, that has, you know, I mean, I've even had that feedback with patients that I've seen before where they say, geez, your hands are quite strong, to quite, you know, feel comfortable in your hands. And I'm like, and I always find that's an odd comment. And I go, great, yeah, appreciate that. But what's been your previous experience? And they go, oh no, I used to see his chiropractor, his hands are always sweaty. He's always this, always that. Like, it's not sending out a great, you know, not sending out good messages to people coming through your door. Like, you know, be confident. You know, I know there's the old saying, fake it till you make it, but there is truth to that as far as be confident, keep your mind open to possibilities, which, you know, when you first came out of school, you probably were open to amazing, I mean, and I'm sure you still are open to a lot of amazing possibilities people can achieve. You've seen them. But if you have that mindset when you first come out, good things will happen, despite your, you know, I hate saying ineffectiveness, but despite your bumbling through your technique, when you first come out, you're still going to get results because, one, it comes back to intention. Your intention's good, your intention's pure. You know, you have that love of that patient, and I mean that just from the caring sense. You know, you have pure intention, love of that patient. You know, you're confident, you're excited, you will get results. Technique to me is still, I mean, the actual application of force is still a very small part of the chiropractic adjustment. And I'll say that again, the application of force is a very small part of the chiropractic adjustment. So, you know, all those other things have even greater importance as far as I'm concerned. And that's what leads you to such good results as well, too. But, you know, your chiropractic certainty, your technique, that will build in time. And you know what builds certainty? X-rays. You know, to me, it's pretty straightforward. Like, you know, you want more certainty? Take films, get more, you know, information's always a good thing. You know, that's what I do find funny. Some of the chiropractors that do lack certainty, do lack confidence, and you do ask them, oh, do you take films? Oh, no, I don't take films.
Yeah.
It's like, why? You know, why?
I think the power is in the synthesis of the correlation of everything you do, the palpatory findings, the examination, the X-ray. You put it all together, and it's a whammy. Most medical doctors that consult with my patients, they take an X-ray and they don't integrate it with the diagnosis or the treatment or the prognosis or whatever. But it's important that when we do take X-rays, a lot of chiropractors, I think, that have got us in trouble are the ones that take an X-ray to escape some sort of litigation, which to me is complete bullshit. You do not take an X-ray to be careful about not being sued. I disagree with that wholeheartedly. Because if you're doing it for the right reason, all that's null and void. And then half the time you're going to get sued anyway. Who cares? Living in fear is no way to practice.
Well, you can't practice in fear. You're not going to deliver good adjustment, I can tell you right then. And the more fear you have of that, the greater you're going to track that anyway. You put that out in your consciousness, you're going to track that anyway. But the other thing that also got us in trouble is a small percentage of chiropractors that would X-ray, you know, weekly. You know, like
everything, little kids, and you know, I saw a guy was in practice, and let's just say, you know, they were successful, but great guy, great chiropractic, great group of practices, but he insisted that everything and anything be X-rayed. Now, I'm upper cervical, I X-ray, but I do not X-ray everything for the sake of them, you know, 5-year-olds. I don't think so. You know,
no, that's where as a profession, it'd be nice if we all had collaboration on those things. But unfortunately,
and mind you, I've X-rayed 5-year-olds because there's 1 in a million that you
Yeah.
do, or 1,000 or whatever. You have
There's
clinical need.
there's plenty of clinical needs X-ray. There's plenty of chiropractic needs X-ray, and more times than not, those clinical and chiropractic needs overlap. Like some people don't. They think it's one or the other. But
Well, as BJ said,
yeah.
chiropractor knows what not to do to get you
Mm.
well.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Do you find practice is like flows a lot more now? Do you find that it's just very? I find it really rhythmic, and it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know. There is it does get easier for the young people out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
It gets easier in
It ju-
terms
it just
of
it just takes
like a
time.
musical.
Yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of young chiros, and we're probably the same. You know, the only way you're going to have 20, 25 years of clinical experience is by being a chiropractor for 20, 25 years. You can't speed that up.
Mm.
Now, yes, you still do everything you can, go to seminars, learn, go visit other practices, have a mentor that's local to you that you can chat with and have discussions with. I do that with chiropractors been in practice, some of them 10 years, we catch up from time to time, just have a chat about things like that, so like do those things, but it will happen, it will get there. But I find practice, I always find it peaceful, I find it rhythmic. It's sort of funny because Daniel being in first year chiropractic school at NZ, like he'll watch me adjust now, and he's like, oh, but are you checking for this, are you looking for that, are you doing, and and I honestly, all those things have become in my subconscious now. Like I don't consciously, I don't go through, oh, let me check, palpate this, see the tone of this. Like I do all those things, but I don't have that mental flow. I'm not ticking off the thing. It's just done automatic, so there is more, automatic things to what we do, especially when you've been practice, near that 25-year mark. But it doesn't mean you don't still be vigilant. You're always giving great care. You don't get lazy. You don't get sloppy. Like just because things come easy doesn't mean you take shortcuts. I think sometimes people like us that have been out for a while, when you get in that 25-year mark, you can tend to get sloppy. You can tend to get things like that. So for me, I'm always conscious of always making sure I never cut corners. I'm always delivering, the best adjustment I can, and I know the next adjustment will be better than that one. And I've always had that mindset from day one. Always going to improve with each adjustment. But yeah, always like learning. I mean, that's why I love doing seminars. Love getting together with other chiropractors. I love talking chiropractic just in general. But I think for me, like as a manual chiropractor, there's always in the back of your head, like physically, how long can you go? You do everything you can to keep your body healthy and well. But sometimes things do break down. But yeah, so for me, I don't try to think about those things. Like if it happens, it happens. But I'll keep adjusting as long as I can and helping as many people as I can. Yeah, that's. But
Well,
that's
my
a fun
friend, I
practice.
think we'll wrap it up.
Mhm.
I'm happy to do as many chats as we are up to, and it's always fun chatting. And any closing comments?
Just like I said, I think we need to value what we do. Like all of us, always value what you do. Don't be, your fee's your fee. Don't be afraid to charge your fee. Don't, if you see the value in what you do, your patients, your practice members will see the value in what you do, and it flows like that. But if you don't value yourself, no one else will. And if you're not teaching chiropractic to people walk through your door, who is? If you're not the one telling them and explaining and educating about chiropractic, then who is? You don't want the GP, the physio, YouTube, the internet. I mean, I'm all for information. I like people when they come ask questions. That's great. But at the end of the day, it's our jobs as the chiropractors. And if we want to be doctors, part of being a doctor is to educate. Educate your patients, educate your people about what we are, what we do, and what you do. And be proud of it, own it. Always see your practice as your safe haven, your bubble, your thing from, I shouldn't use bubble, that's got negative connotation these days, but it should be your safe place. It should be your happy place. It should be where, you get the most enjoyment despite whatever's going on in your life, whether it, you could, have family issues, this, that, the other thing. When you walk through that clinic, when you first put your hands on that first patient of the day, all that stuff goes away. All that stuff's blocked out. And so you should always find that enjoyment, always find that peace, and you'll have a great practice. You have a great career. You'll obtain achieve all the things you want to achieve, whatever those goals are. But, put your goals out there, write them down, say them to yourself. Trying to sound corny in those things, that does work though. But just, just be proud and be happy to be a chiropractor. It's a great profession. We do great things, and don't belittle it. Own being a chiropractor. Like when you're out in public, introduce yourself as Joe Arano, chiropractor, Jeremy Villani, chiropractor. It's I've never ever in my life ever said, "Oh, I'm in Allied Health," or "I'm in," God, I hate that stuff. It's like, I'm a chiropractor. I'm proud to be a chiropractor. Always have been, always will be. But I just want more chiropractors to be proud to be a chiropractor. I mean, however you got this profession, whether maybe it wasn't your first choice, maybe it wasn't your second or third choice, maybe you just bumbled into it, but you're here, enjoy it, appreciate it, open your possibilities in your mind to some pretty amazing things, and you'll see it. You'll see it.
You make me think of a story. When I've been in a foreign country, was the only time I ever said I was like a physiotherapist, and they had no concept of what a chiropractor is. And the only way I could communicate it was physiotherapy, and so that's probably the only time I've ever done that. Well, anyway, that happens, and that's testimony that we've got.
All right, Joe. I've always known you were a mixer, so it's okay.
And we've got 7 billion on the planet, and man, there's billions that do not have access to chiropractic.
I know. Well, there's plenty in our own local communities, and that's the thing. It's.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's.
Well, we keep plugging away at it, man, and I'll talk to you soon. And thanks for your time today. And
no worries.
Jeremy, we'll see you soon.
No worries. Thank you, Joe.